Welcome to Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. I'm Kenneth, Kinney, but friends call me Shark. And like you, I'm a professional speaker and I love listening to Speakernomics. Speakernomics is a professional speaker show that will help you thrive and grow a speaking business so you too can change the world. One keynote session workshop, it's speech at a time. And on this episode, guess what? It's the 200th episode of Speakernomics, and this is going to be a great one with a very special guest. Dr. Nido Qubein is a CSP, a Hall of Famer, a Cavett Award recipient, an author, business leader. He's not only a Philanthropist of the Year award winner, he's who the NSA named the Philanthropist Award after. Oh, and he has this other little job in that he is the president of High Point University. There's another 12 or so pages of awards, but we only have so much time because he's raised the bar so high. Nido, welcome to Speakernomics. How are you today?
Thank you very much. I'm doing great and nice to be with you.
Thank you. Now, to all my speaking friends, what are the premier skills you're building to become an amazing speaker? Maybe your story wasn't the star athlete or the rock star musician. Maybe you're the speaker who hustles and works hard to build the right network in order to create additional opportunities on stage and off. You're constantly learning from those who make an impact on others and on you. You're developing those premier skills to not only master, but to take you as a speaker from poor, hungry, and determined to professional, honorable, and kind. Kind of like today's guest. And before we jump in, make sure to go to Speakernomics. That's where you can find the tips, insights, and knowledge to help you become a better speaker, build a better business, and get paid to speak. Dr. Qubein, let's dive in. So, one, you weren't an Olympic athlete or a concert pianist. You didn't build a speaking career over tragedy and trauma, but you have this amazing story looking back. How did you go from a kid with $50 in his pocket immigrating here from Lebanon with a limited knowledge of English to someone who developed into this amazing speaker with over 5,000 speaking engagements and a truly storied career?
Yeah, well, Shark, thank you for that. I'm the product of many turning points in my life. My dad died when I was 6. That was a turning point. My mother, at 4th grade education, was left with 5 children, 4 plus me. She had to find a job, work, make money to feed us and clothe us, and hopefully to plant seeds of greatness in our hearts, minds, and souls. Everything I really know of any great value originated with that lady who had the wisdom of all times, if you will, albeit she only had a 4th grade education. And she sent me to America when I was 17 to get an education because that's your ticket to success and significance. And she borrowed the money to send me on a one-way ticket. So I came to America because I believed in all my heart. After all, your beliefs lead to your behaviors lead to your results. And you need coaching along the way. My mom was my coach. And she believed that I could make something of my life. So I came to America to go to college. It was tough, man. Let me tell you, it was really tough. You know, it's tough to not know the language. It's tough to be 7,000 miles away. It's tough to be here on a one-way ticket. It's tough to have to work to go to school every day. It's tough to have no place to go at Christmas or New Year's because the school shuts down and you have no place to go. But amazing things happen in life that out of adversity can emerge abundance. If you have an open heart, and if you have faith and you have courage, and you put the two together and you have faithful courage, amazing things can happen. In fact, you know, Shark, I thank God every day for the adversity I had in my life because it propelled me to a place of abundance for which I'm very grateful, very thankful, and which gives me the determination, if you will, and the desire to create impact in all the places that I find myself and with all the people that I come across.
Amazing, amazing. What a great story. You have such an impressive network of well-known and respected leaders. I know if anybody that's ever been to an influence has seen the kind of people you hang out with, including Daniel Lebetsky, who won the Nido Qubein Philanthropy Award this year. It's clear that you've done more than an impressive job with networking over your career. When you were a younger man and coming up in your career, did you have this vision of what speaking would do for you and see who you would become by following the path in networking that you envisioned? I mean, did you purposely develop the people that help you get towards the next level, or how did you chart that, if you will?
You know, Shark, I I never wanted to be a speaker. I didn't know what a speaker was. You know, you have to remember now, I started speaking when I was 25, um, to, small groups here and there who invite me to come and speak. I was privileged to have been on the platform early on in my career with the likes of Cavett Robert and Charlie Jarvis and Kenneth McFarland and Og Mandino and Earl Nightingale. I was a kid, mind you, and they were maybe 30, 40 years older than me, but I learned a lot from them. But I never charted out a course to be a speaker. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I want to build businesses. If I've had any success in speaking, I've given, by the way, about 8,500 presentations and seminars, literally all over the world. If I've ever had a desire to be a speaker, it's only to bring impact in the life of others, and only to bring that which I do understand, which is business strategy, leadership, marketing, connecting with people, bring it to the stage in a rather effective manner as it appeals to people's goals, needs, and aspirations, and as it helps people to overcome their fears. I would like to tell you that when I was a younger person, I understood the power of networking. But I am the product of serendipities in life that happened to me because I have an open heart, because I don't prejudge, because I have an anticipatory spirit, because I'm willing to work hard and smart, hopefully, and because I'm willing to be resilient and courageous in all that I do. But here's the lesson I did learn, that the larger and deeper and wider your circle of influence is, the smaller and more shallow and less scary your circle of concerns is. So if you widen your circle of influence, you shrink up your circle of concerns. Because if you know people of influence, then you know that there's always an answer to something. You know somebody's always there to help you with something. And so, yes, I made sure that I hung around the people who can feed my heart and who can nourish my mind and who can nurture my soul. Now, Shark, look, I grew up poor, so I didn't want to be poor anymore. So it is natural for me to have been attracted to circles of people who have done some significant things in life. It didn't all happen at one time, mind you. It happened over time. But here's the important thing. I believe that I've been able to develop the skill of awareness. The skill of awareness is a really, really good skill. Being aware not only of your situational placement in life, but being aware of other people's desires and needs and how you can bring something to them of value. That you believe in win-win relationships, not in win-lose, not in lose-win. And I've also focused a lot, mind you, focus is more important than intelligence, that I focused a lot on ensuring that I develop the skill of judgment. How do you teach someone the skill of good judgment? You really can't. Well, maybe you can, but I don't know how to do it. Here's what I do know, is that if you find yourself in circles with people who make good judgment, it'll rub off on you. With pain or without pain, it will rub off on you. And so for me, it was natural that I began to speak to these companies, and as I built my own companies, my background is more, business. I helped start a bank. I own national companies. And so my speaking was the byproduct of what I've learned experientially, what I've learned through life skills. I never gave a book report. I never just gave a memorized speech. As I'm speaking to you right now, just coming from my heart. I knew that if I got on that stage and shared with people fundamentals and foundational principles that I learned through building businesses, the thick and the thin of it, the good and the bad of it, then I think people would listen. And I understood that authenticity must be above charisma any day of the week. It is those kind of virtues, if you want to call them that help one build bridges of understanding with others. Now, I have to be candid with you. Along the way, I've been fortunate to receive certain significant awards, like the Ellis Island, Congressional Medal of Honor, like the Horatio Alger Association for Distinguished Americans, where we only have 300 members, and they represent pretty much the creme de la creme of America's industry and America's Philanthropist, and so on. It's not unusual for me to be at a table right next to Bill Gates, for example, or Colin Powell, who became a dear friend of mine, or people of that ilk. And so Daniel Lubitsky, to whom you referred, is one of my dear friends. He's the founder of Kind Snacks, those Kind bars that we all buy. But forgive me if I tell you that I probably know 200 or 300 people like that, because I made it my business to get to know them by ensuring that I'm never a pest to them, but that I will bring something of value to every environment in which I choose to reside. And, my mother was just so amazing, Shark, I can't tell you. She would say, there's no such thing as unrealistic dreams. There are only unrealistic timelines. So yes, you can. You were created for a purpose. You were meant to be extraordinary. And she would say to me things like, who you spend time with is who you become. What you choose is what you get. That's judgment. How you change is how you succeed. That's about transformation. It's about growing. I never go to bed at night without asking the question, what did I learn today I did not know yesterday? And so I understood that the circumstances in which we find ourselves do not determine where we end up. They only define where we start, my friend. And as you know these people, great people, as you know them, you learn from them. And as you know them, you learn from their own calamities and their own adversities. And you begin to realize, oh my goodness, we're all alike, really. We're all alike. We're not different from each other. It's just that we choose, or we judge, or we're aware, or we're not of the things that can mold us and make us who we are. So let me end with this thought here. Speaking can never be the end goal. Speaking is merely a mechanism. It's merely a tool to enable us to enter the hollowed hallways of wherever you want to be. You mentioned sports or Hollywood or industry or business, whatever it might be. Speaking is a capacity for one to bring forth persuasive argument, in a manner that other people will relate to. But, to say, well, I wanted to be a professional speaker, I never really wanted to be that. It happened to me more than I happened to it. I wanted to be a business person. And if speaking, helped me create some wealth, if you will, which enabled me to buy businesses and do things, so much the better. And that's an honest answer I just gave you.
That was perfect. How did the most impactful speaker you met or saw or learned from, how did that speaker change that? Because you named off so many earlier, how did that speaker change the course and trajectory of your own speaking career? And who was it?
That's really a good question, because I observe different traits in different people. When someone says, what's the best book you read? Who's the best person you met? There's no such thing, because we are the collective of all that to which we have been exposed. And so for me, I learned that an authentic speaker is much better than a dynamic speaker. Now, by dynamic, I mean, jumping up and down and all that stuff. But I did that in my early years. I clearly did that because I thought if I started the speech with 5 or 10 minutes of humor, they'd like me more. As I matured and as I transformed my own personhood, I came to understand that speaking is nothing more than relating, that there's no such thing called communicating. It's all about connecting. That the best speaker I know on the platform is not one who shares information, because if all you have is information, people will use you and they'll discard you. Think about what you do with Google. If all you have is knowledge, people call upon you only when they need you. But if what you possess is wisdom, people will respect you. And when someone respects you, they'll sit up to listen to you. And if they sit up to listen to you, they're much more likely to absorb what you say in a manner, in a form that they can use for their own good. So what I've learned is that a conversational speaker is a whole lot better than a screaming speaker. What I've learned is the speaker who's honest and authentic and speaks from a perspective of which he or she really know. In other words, you understand the content of which you speak, versus just, making something up and just making it sound good. I personally don't relate to people saying, I'm the number one speaker, I'm the number one this and number one that, because as a university president, I can tell you that would be painfully comical in the academic world, because unless you have empirical data to prove what you're saying, people will discard everything you say. And so I also learned something else. You asked me, what is it I learned from other speakers? That the greatest speakers I know understand the balance between content and context. In other words, it's important to know what you know, but it's important to know to whom you're saying it and under what circumstances, and what is the timeliness of it for how they feel and where they live and who they are. If you don't do that, then content absent of context will only create conflict in how they hear you and therefore how they respond to us. Those are just two or three of perhaps hundreds of lessons I've learned along the way from observing other wonderful speakers.
Yeah, that's a great point too, because it's a different balance for every audience depending on who you're talking to. That it can swing one way or the other depending on what it is. Well, since you run a university, I would be completely remiss if I didn't ask you something about education and higher education anyway. If there was something that you could have studied in school or not that would have helped you become a better speaker even earlier, then what would that have been? That's also a chance to remind everybody, at least NSA wise, to go check out the digital vault. But for you, Dr. Qubein, what skill do you think, because you teach so many great life skills at High Point?
Yeah, I think perhaps, I don't know if you call it a skill. I guess it's a skill, the skill of discernment, being discerning, being a human being who can measure matter in a way that connects to who you really are. At the end of the day, if we don't act and live who we really are, then we're fake. And if you're fake, you'll never find joy. You'll find temporary happiness, and that will never give us a sense of significance about life. So discernment would be one for me. Perhaps learning life skills like forgiveness, like grace, like how does your brain work in ways that can relate to other people. The way to persuade other people is to begin to where they are, bring them to where you are, not the other way around. The other way around is just shouting at them and trying to brainwash them. But I'm at a different stage of my life, so I came to High Point University to be the chairman of the board. I went to school here, junior and senior year. The school wasn't doing well. That was in 2005. And they basically begged me to become president to turn it around. I said, I'll do it for a couple of years. And here I am 20 years later. It was a 91-acre landlocked campus. Today we have 600 acres. It was 3 academic schools. Today we have 14, including optometry and dental medicine and law and engineering and nursing and pharmacy and so on. And business, of course, and entrepreneurship and communication as well. And so we took this. I took this tiny little microcosm and expanded it beyond anyone's expectation. And today I've had 450 other schools come visit me to see how we do what we do. You have to see High Point to understand High Point University. We have 22,000 applications today for a class of 1,500 and freshmen. And so education today is going through a metamorphosis. It has to, because just a few moments ago, I was reading another report about how colleges are closing down, how many colleges are expected to be shut down in the next 3 years. More than 500 of them have shut down in the last 6 or 7 years, 100 in the last 3 years. They run out of money mostly, and they get in trouble. So the education is an enterprise. Just like speaking is an enterprise. You have to approach it as an enterprise. An enterprise has fundamentals that you must follow. For example, if you don't understand marketing, you'll have a really hard time at becoming a very successful speaker in a very cluttered marketplace. where the people speaking and making fees are not all professionals like you or me, but they're in every other profession one can imagine. So it clutters the market, it confuses the buyer, if you will. And so education is an enterprise where you have to understand marketing, you have to understand financial strategy, you have to understand strategic planning, you have to have a future view of where the world is going. So, for example, Hype University, we are the premier life skills university. Our outcomes are 99% within 6 months. A graduate finds a job, starts a business, or go to graduate school. National average, by the way, is 84%. So our strength is distinction in what we do. But education cannot simply be out of the books, my friend. It has to, the books and the academic class and the labs are the Mona Lisa, if you will. But the frame around the Mona Lisa, you can take license with. And so I have more than 50 in residence experts here. You mentioned Daniel Levitsky, but I also have Steve Wozniak, the founder of Apple Computer, and Mark Randolph, the founder of Netflix, and the chairman of AT&T board, and the chairman of Domino's, 50 of those who come here to teach and enable my students to learn. So the word education comes from a Greek word eduko, which means to change from within, to change from within. You can't change from the outside for it to be lasting and meaningful. Change from within. So what does it take to create an environment where people choose to change from within? And by the way, that connects directly to the business you're in and I'm in. Because what is speaking really? It's not speaking. It is educating people, helping them to grow and helping them to stretch themselves to find the extraordinary zone that belongs inside of them.
Now for a little speaking trivia. In what year was the National Speakers Association founded? 1971, 1972, or 1973? Back with the answer in just a moment. Before we jump back to the show, here's a special note from two special NSA members who both previously hosted Speakernomics, CSP Tom Singer and CSP Robert Kennedy III.
Hey everybody, this is Tom Singer, and I wanted to say congratulations to NSA on 200 episodes of Speakernomics, the official podcast of the National Speakers Association. This podcast is fantastic, and I hope everybody is listening.
Speakernomics is the show where we go and flow and help you to know how to grow a thriving speaking business. Hey y'all, it's Robert Kennedy III, RK3, former host of the Speakernomics podcast, and I am pumped to celebrate 200 episodes with the phenomenal team of Crystal Washington, Tom Singer, and now the shark, Kenneth Kinney. It's been a ride. It's been such a great journey, and I'm grateful to have been a part of it. I just want you all to do something for me. Keep shining, keep showing up, and keep helping speakers to transform the world.
And here's the answer. The National Speakers Association was founded in 1973. And now, back to the show. So a question I want to ask you from a previous guest, and this is going to be a little bit tough. We spoke even before you've even presented at the UN, so there's not many venues or palaces, arenas you haven't spoken to, but what are you willing to give up to get to the next level in your speaking career?
Nothing. I'm not willing to give up anything. However, I'm willing to gain a lot of things. I'm willing to gain, I'm willing to learn, I'm willing to gain more insights about human beings and about the economic situation in which we live. I'm willing to expand my mind and open my heart to understand why some of us are fortunate and some of us are not, why some of us live in beautiful homes and some of us are homeless, why we can't get along with each other because we have different political views, why the world is so filled with torment and war that brings misery to human beings. I want to learn more. I don't want to give up anything. I'm not willing to give up my health or my family or my balance in my life. But that is not to be mistaken with the fact that I'm willing to stretch and be open-minded and invest, instead of give up, invest time, energy, often money. Here's something that most people cannot answer correctly when I ask this question. What is the most important skill that a leader should possess? What is that? And people say, well, it's communicating, it's doing this, doing that. The most important skill as a leader of any kind of enterprise is risk management. Because if you know how to manage risks, you're much more likely to take a risk. If you can't manage risk, you won't take a risk. And if you don't take a risk, you'll never accomplish anything of any great magnitude. So it's the same reason why people, why we have brakes on our car. You don't have brakes on your car so you can stop the car. You have brakes on your car so you can go faster. Because if you don't need to go faster, you don't need brakes. So brakes, therefore, is a mechanism for risk management. So when you go fast, you don't wreck the car and get injured. And so I want to learn every day. But I don't want to give up some of the good stuff I possessed around my life. I don't mean material things necessarily, but I mean more the habits I've developed, or the insights I've accumulated, or the people. Would I be willing to give up some precious people in my life just to get a gig? No, I would not, because I believe integrity is at the heart of all that we do, and it's the one glue that can keep us together for a long period of time. I built a very successful career, Shark, in speaking and in consulting. And for many, many years, I earned significantly more than some of the even more famous people you can think about in this business. And I did it because I understood that my focus ought to be on what happens to people because of what I bring forth to them. And that meant sometimes not think horizontally, but think vertically and diagonally, and to impact not just their mind, but to touch their heart as well. Because all of that, comprises and composes the fullness of the being that is called you or me or collectively an audience.
So, Nido, what is a question that you would like to ask a future guest on this show?
Well, it depends who the future guest is. Depends what the strength is. I might ask something specific in their world, but it might be how you define how do you find success, or how do you find significance, or how do you define impact? At the end of the day, I make a distinction between legacy and impact. Your legacy is not that important. It's not important what I've been able to build at Hype University, what I've done in business, building businesses and companies, national companies, or the boards I'm on, or the awards I got. All that is fine, but in time, people will forget that, or they will not pay attention to it, or it will be depleted in terms of its impact in one's life. But what is important is the impact we create. So legacy is what people think of us. Impact is what happens to them because they came to know us, or they crossed our path, or we crossed their path. So I always like to ask the definition of one's thoughtful understanding about an area of impact. Like I just said, those things that the way you define success is very important. You do know that. Many entrepreneurs define success by making a lot of money. Hank Aaron defines success by beating the record of Babe Ruth. Albert Einstein defines success by unraveling the secrets of the universe. Mother Teresa defines success by feeding the hungry and clothing the poor in the back alleys of Calcutta. So it means different things to different people. When you ask someone what that means, you get to know that person pretty well.
Well, let's do a quick recap then based on Dr. Qubein's amazing advice. Number one, out of adversity comes abundance. Be thankful for that adversity. It helps you develop strength and distinction. Number two, the large and deeper and wider your circle of influence makes a smaller circle of concerns. If you know people of influence, you know there are great people around to help you, and make sure that you develop that skill of awareness and focus as well. Number three, remember that speaking is simply a way to make an impact. We get lost in so many other definitions of it, but it's a great way to help other people achieve what they want. Nido, I'm so looking forward to seeing you speak again at another, at least Influence, soon enough. Any last closing thoughts before we speak ourselves off this stage?
Well, what a privilege it is that we are entrusted with the stages of the world. What a privilege it is that people will sit down and listen to us. What a privilege it is to have the brain power to think up the things that you say, and then the lips and mouth and the oxygen power with which to deliver it. It is truly a privilege to have all of that. I thank God every day for oxygen, without which I cannot live, and for which I paid absolutely nothing. And it's a wonderful, wonderful way to look at life. That's some of the most beautiful thing in life. It costs you nothing. It's a question about how we look at them. And so an audience is like that. It's a gift that you have for that moment. What will you do with that gift of significance? I thank you, Shark, for who you are, but I thank you of equal importance for the good that you do for NSA through this medium and other leadership positions. And I, for one, am very grateful that people like you are willing to carry the torch and continue the significant foundational structure that is the National Speakers Association.
Thank you so much. Well, friends, make sure to join us at Speakernomics.com and let your voice be heard. I am Kenneth Kinney, your host of the National Speakers Association's podcast, Speakernomics, and this has been another fantastic episode of the show. Thank you, Dr. Qubein, for being part of NSA, for lending your expertise to the show, and most importantly, thank you for making an impact with your philanthropy and service to others. And to everyone listening, thank you for the privilege of your time. What an honor it is to share this 200th episode with you. There are so many more to come. And remember, Speakernomics is a podcast where you'll learn to speak, get paid, repeat.